And good morning. I love this. We're continuing. Thank you. Saw that. Woo. Oh, sorry. Just breaking things already. We're continuing on with wisdom. And so my name is Kent Owings. I'm an elder here at Storyline. And I'm also in finance, so I own my own financial firm on wealth management. And so it was really funny when we planned this out, and DJ was speaking on Proverbs, and we're like, okay, who wants to go next? And I'll say, well, I'll speak next. And then we just happened, this next part in Proverbs, chapter 3, we'll start in verse 9, and it's talking about money, finances, resources. And so this is a topic that I love, and it's a topic that people love to make it weird. And so we as a church like to make it weird. A lot of times we see churches where it's like they're talking about money out of desperation, and they're saying that it's a huge need, or they'll make it weird on the other side where they're saying it's almost like a bingo or a lottery ticket that, hey, if you do this, then you're gonna win $10,000 by giving. We're going to try not to make it weird here at all. We're not asking you for money. It's pretty cool being an elder at a church that's been responsible with the little and operate in the black. I mean, that's really cool. So we're not in a point out of desperation, not asking about it. People outside of the church, in the church, we make it weird too. So for some reason, it's weird to talk about money, religion, politics, and that must make me really, really weird because I love talking about money, religion, and politics. A huge reason for that is I love people. And there's no better way when I'm talking to a person to really, truly understand you and who you are. What are your values? What was your history like? Than talking to you about what your faith. Than talking to you about political views with an open mind, and talking to you about money and resources and values and intentionality. So I was excited that those are the topics that we're going to talk about today. Well, we're in church, so I hope religion's okay to talk about. And money is the number one topic in the Bible discussed, so I hope it's okay with that. I'm not going to touch politics, though. Okay, we can touch that. Talk about that later. And so, one of my favorite questions to ask people is, what is your earliest memory on finances? What's your earliest memory as childhood, as finances in the home? And so, right now, think about that time. What was that time like for you? For me, one of the most impactful ones was older in life. I kind of had this roller coaster going through life. My dad owned his own business, so I got to see how that was modeled and just really grind and work hard. And he passed away when I was 11. My mom was a school teacher, so we went from having a lot of resources to not having a lot of resources. And so then I got a really great example from my mom on how to be selfless and how to be, wise with that little of the resources then that we had. But then I had some other weird influence from a little bit more extended family. And this is the one memory that really impacted me, to design this myself, because I turned 18. And I remember it so vividly. I was working at the Gamekeeper restaurant, doesn't exist anymore, is in the Wahi Plaza. And it's a Friday night shift. We are busy, and my phone is buzzing. And I look at my phone. I'm in the back, and I was like my grandpa's calling me. I was like, my grandpa's literally never called me once in my entire life. This is my dad's dad. And so I go in this back room of this restaurant, and I answer the phone. And my grandpa is on the other line. He's like, Kent, I'd really like to see you. When can you make it down here to Twin Falls and see me? I was like, immediately, I'll be there tomorrow. I think I was working, I had somebody cover my shift. So I hop in my truck then the next day, and I go down to see my grandpa. Super excited. And so he's like, yeah, great to see you. I drive up. He owns a crop dusting business, used to own it with my dad. This is after he passed. And And so I drive to the airport. It's the same code. It's always been. Even when I was a kid, my dad was working there. So I drive into the airport there and go see him in his office at the airport. And he said, "Oh, Kent, great to see you. Let's take care of some business first." So we go to the neighboring business, and he brings out this paperwork. He puts it down in front of me, and he's like, "Yeah, since your dad passed, your aunt and uncles, they just think it's better if we take care of the business. So I need you to sign this." I was like, "Well, what do you mean?" And he was asking me to sign out of the trust that my grandma still wanted my brother and I to be a part of it, but then he didn't. And so it was with that, it put this weird identity in my mind of like, oh, I've got to work hard. I've got to make a lot so my family will like me. And so those weird memories or those weird happenstances when you're a kid or when you're young, it can affect everything. And chances are, whatever that memory is or whatever your parents or whatever your childhood was of that relationship with resources, that's the same relationship that you have right now. And that can be really good or it can be unhealthy, like it was unhealthy for me. The great thing is, even without a dad, we always have a father. And with that, we can turn to the Bible and we can get that wisdom and we can be intentional. When I'm working with clients and with people, it's the easy part's the investing. The hard part is really communicating, understanding what their values are and putting that action and intention towards those values. And that's what's so cool that God has laid out in this book for us on how we can be intentional with our actions and get this wisdom. So we'll turn to Proverbs 3, chapter 9, or verse 9 and 10. So turn there now, Proverbs 3, verse 9 and 10. And that says, "Honor the Lord with your wealth, with the first fruits of all your crops. Then your barns will be filled to overflowing, and your vats will brim over with wine, with new wine." So honor the Lord with your wealth. Again, let's not make this weird. Wealth, yes, that includes money. Wealth also includes time. Somebody has a wealth of time. Wealth includes knowledge, a wealth of knowledge. And so wealth can mean all these different things. Here, Solomon's talking in Proverbs to the Israelites that have just come into the promised land. So there's no money here. He's talking about these crops. This crops is their wealth. And it's the first time they've had any wealth. Which here's another funny thing. The first time you have wealth is the hardest time to give any of that wealth. And so that wealth, I have kind of come up with this idea, and I've heard it from other areas too, that the real wealth, a wealthy person has the ability to do what they want, when they want, with whoever they want to do it with. Like, that is wealth. It's not just money. And so honor the Lord with your wealth of time. Honor the Lord with your wealth of resources. Honor the Lord with your wealth of knowledge. With the first fruits of all your crops. The first fruits, this is the difference in attitude. So this is a giving of sacrifice. This is a giving of intentionality, not necessarily just, okay, I've got some extra, I've got some hand-me-down, here you go. So this is that character. So honor the Lord with your first fruits. These are the Israelites that have come out of the promised land, and now they have a harvest, and they're so excited they have something. They're not completely dependent. And then Solomon's like, oh, hey, these first fruits, the first things that we harvest, that's got to go to the Lord. And so, and again, this is like wisdom from the Father coming in that's telling us, hey, Kent, if you eat a dozen mini donuts, you're going to get sick, which that did happen once. And that was my wife that told me. But the Lord would have told me that too. But this is that wisdom. This is just good stuff of honor the Lord with your first fruits, because where your mind goes, that's where your intention will go too. Where your intentions are, that's where the rest of your life will go. If you put all your money in Bitcoin, guess what you're going to be tracking? Bitcoin. You're going to be following that constantly. But if you give those first fruits, the first thing to the Lord, where do you think that will go? And so we're going to dive into this a little bit deeper. And we're going to go to Mark 12, 41 and 44. Because this is just such good stuff in here. So Mark 12, 41, 44. And I love this. I love this. This is the widow's mite. If you've heard it, great. If you haven't, even greater. So Mark 12, 41 through 44, and that reads, Jesus sat down opposite the place where the offerings were put and watched the crowd putting their money into the temple treasury. Many rich people threw in large amounts, but a poor widow came and put in 2 very small copper coins, worth only a fraction of a penny. Calling his disciples to him, Jesus said, I tell you the truth, this poor widow has put more into the treasury than all the others. They all gave out of their wealth, but she, out of her poverty, put in everything, all she had to live on. So this right here, what Jesus is saying, these are red letters out of here. This is Jesus speaking. It is not about the money. It is about the attitude and the purpose and your direction. And he uses that because what people struggled with 2,000 years ago, we still struggle with today. And so I just love that example of the attitude, the offering of that attitude. So honor the Lord with your wealth, with the first fruits of all your crops. Then your barns will be filled to overflowing. Those barns, that represents the blessing that then comes. And so we're going to turn to Matthew 14 through 30. And this is the 5 talents. So there's a high probability you've heard this before. Again, if you haven't, awesome, because it is good stuff. And so red letters again. So this is Jesus talking. So again, I will be like a man going on a journey who called his servants and entrusted his property to them. To one he gave 5 talents of money, to another 2 talents, and to another 1 talent, each according to his ability. Then he went on his journey. The man who had received the 5 talents went at once and put his money to work and gathered 5 more. So also the one with the 2 talents gained 2 more. But the man who had received the 1 talent went off, dug a hole in the ground, and hid his master's money. After a long time, the master of those servants returned and settled accounts with them. The man who had received the 5 talents brought the other 5. And the master, he said, you entrusted me with 5 talents. See, I have gained 5 more. His master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. That's the blessing. You have done well with a few. I will put you in charge of the many. And I'm going to read through the rest of this, and then I'm going to come back. Come on and share your master's happiness, the blessing. The man with the 2 talents also came. Master, he said, you entrusted me with 2 talents, and see, I have gained 2 more. His master replied, well done, good and faithful servants. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of the many. Come and share your master's happiness. Then the man who had received the 1 talent came. Master, he said, I knew that you were a hard man, harvesting where you have not sown and gathered where you have not scattered seed. So I was afraid and went out and hid your talent in the ground. See, here is what belongs to you. And then the master got really upset after that. But that's a whole different sermon. Here, we're going to lean into that blessing, and because he gave them the talents according to their ability. And if you own your own business, when you live your life, or if you're a parent and you're watching your kids grow up, it's like you try to give them things that you know their ability, they're capable of doing. And then with your kids, if they have this ability, say they're naturally gifted with an athletic ability, but they don't want to practice. If they're naturally gifted with a musical ability, but they don't want to practice, it's frustrating. You're like, oh my goodness, you were given such a gift. If only you would just use that gift and practice, you could really shine. And that's what we're talking about. We're given a gift, and Jesus, God, they're looking at us because we're his children, and he wants for us, and this is his words that he's left for us to be there. And so this is where going back, honor the Lord with your wealth, with the first fruit of your crops. Then your barns will be filled to overflowing, and your vats will brim over with new wine. The vats overflowing, that is abundance. And my wife can attest to this. As we live our life, we're always in front of major decisions that we have to make. And there was a time in my career that, okay, I would have to move to Colorado, and I'd be chasing the money, and do a job that I didn't care for, that I wouldn't, that I just knew wasn't good. It wasn't good for people. Or I could do what I knew what was good for people and what was good for my family and stay here. And I chose to stay here. I took a 70% pay cut in income, 70%. And I am telling you, at that time, my marriage was never better. My family life was never better. My happiness, my joy was never better. And it was that joy that then could be overflowing. When we started the church and we're going over the needs, and there was a needs for the children's and to help with the 4th and 5th graders. And people that really know me know I'm not an other people's kids kind of person. If you come over, I don't hold babies. I'm not a baby holder. I don't kiss babies. I'm not an other people's kids kind of person. But there's a need, and I didn't really have time either. I just started a business not too long ago. So it's the time's at a shortage. The want to be around other people's kids was at an extreme shortage, but there was a need at the church. I was like, yeah, I'll do it. Okay, sure, yep. If you need it, whatever. You sure you don't have any toilets to scrub? I'll happily scrub some toilets. No, we're at the school. Somebody else does that. Okay, I'll help out with kids. But now, it's like, don't you dare take me away from those kids. When I come in and those kids, when I say, hey, I'm in your class this week, and they're excited and they're cheering that on, I love that. I love that so much. I can't even explain it. So then there is that joy that just overflows. I love being in there. And now it's, as more people are coming and somebody else wants to take that over, I would say, heck no, you're not taking me out of that classroom. And so that is where God can push you, and he can push you into that overflowing state. And that's where it is. And so all of this, through that Proverbs, honor the Lord with your wealth, with the first fruits of all your crops, so that your barns will be filled to overflowing, and your vats will brim over with new wine. That is all to say, take that intentionality, take that extra effort. Go back this week, read through the rest of Proverbs chapter 3. There is some good stuff in there. It'll talk about valuing wisdom over gold. And there it could be funny because you're right, Kent, gold's up 40%. We're over like 3,300 an ounce now, but wisdom is more valuable. So go through the rest of that. If you have a hard time on figuring things out, this is pretty cool. When I have these value cards here. And so when people are really struggling, because sometimes you just don't know what you don't know. And you're trying to figure out your values. And so I've got a whole deck of cards here that has all these values. So I'll go through with people, and you list them out. And so some values could be stability, it could be status, it could be work, it could be ethics, excellence, excitement, fairness, fame, family, flexibility. I put all these decks out, force people to go through all of them, and then I force them to narrow them down. And so then you've got to choose the top 20 of those values, then narrow it down to 15, then narrow it down to 8. So then those 8 values, now you've gone through a process and you understand these are your values. This is where your time should go. This is where your resources should go. This is where the money should go. This is that intentionality in your life. And so let me pray for you today. Let me pray for that still small voice. Let me pray for that wisdom. Let me challenge you to keep reading in Proverbs chapter 3. That is good stuff from the Father on intentionality there. Lord, be with every single person in this room, every person that's watching this online, every person that's not here today, that's camping. Lord, God, I pray for that intentionality. I pray for that wisdom. I pray for that joy, that peace. I pray for that blessing. I pray for that overflowing, Lord. I pray for that wisdom, God. Lord, I thank you so much for Storyline. I thank you for every single person in this room. I thank you for their story and having our story come together, God. God, thank you for your word, and thank you for this day. In Jesus' name.
Amen.